Okay, so this is another common question.
Okay.
These tend to be very common questions that even I hear, and I'm not the expert, so I'm glad we've got you to answer them today. You get 90 seconds.
Yeah.
This one's all about promotions.
Okay.
Is there an ideal promotional schedule that you can use for promoting your webinars?
Yeah. Okay, so start with the data that we're seeing about webinar promotions is that people are starting to extend their promotions out longer than they ever did. I think this is a testament to people being more organized so they can do so. So 5 weeks is not uncommon. But what the numbers indicate is the registrants that come in 3 and 4 weeks before a webinar is the smallest subsection of all registrants. Most is going to happen in the 3 weeks leading up, with the biggest chunk, nearly half of them, happening the week of the webinar.
Okay.
So when you get inside those numbers, what you find out is that the people who registered 4 weeks out or 5 weeks out are less likely to attend than those who registered the week of the webinar. And that's because they may have wanted to be there. They were intended to be on the webinar, but things came up. They had business, meetings, travel, last minute vacation. But when you register in week, or even more importantly, day of, where we're seeing 22% of registrants showing up on the day of, they've got the window, they've got it blocked off, and they will attend. So from a schedule, you want to build in a campaign that starts, call it 4 weeks out, but leaves you room so that you can ensure that you are still promoting that final week and promoting a fair amount. You want to end really strong with your promotions if you're going to make the most out of it and get people out.
Okay, so you want to make sure that there's certainly enough bandwidth for promotions leading up to the actual event.
Yeah.
1 week seems to be a really important time frame there.
Yeah.
One thing I've heard before is in your promotions, instead of just sending and by the way, I think you just beat that one again.
Yeah, I'm killing it.
You're destroying it.
Oh, I don't got a lot to say, I'm not sure.
It just flashed in the monitor there.
Yeah.
One thing that I've heard before is mixing up your promotions and even the type of emails that you're sending.
Yeah.
It can be useful. Most of us now are sending HTML emails with images, but sometimes having a text-based email can also work. Have you heard the same thing, or is that...
You know what? Yeah, I mean, people are trying all kinds of things to get noticed now in the inbox,
Sure.
right? And so I definitely have seen those things tried. The one thing that we're seeing a return to is personalization. So anyone who operates north of the border here in Canada in a post-Castle world knows it's hard to just email out for a webinar,
Absolutely.
by lists or whatever.
Yeah.
And so more and more of our customers are talking about literally doing phone blitzes leading up to webinars to personally invite people to them.
That's a good idea.
Now, with all those emails going into the inbox, somebody actually picking up the phone and saying, hey, I want to invite you to this is much different than what they're used to seeing. So it is a driver. And to that point, you said like the plain text versus HTML is the personal invites do really well, especially from speakers and leaders. Anytime I do a webinar, and I haven't seen the stats yet for today's, but generally speaking, in the morning before we go live, I spend some time on LinkedIn and in my inbox and just point out to a few people, I'm sure you got this through my marketing channel, but I think you'd really benefit from this webinar. And I always drive an additional 25 to 30 viewers myself just by doing that.
Cool.
So the more personalization, the better.
It's funny that you mentioned that personalization, because I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and we were talking about millennials. It seems to be a very common conversation these days. It's a conversation, to say the least.
Yeah.
And one of the speakers said that what they've started doing for events, and these were mostly in-person events, but sending out a physical postcard and something that was very personalized. And she said the response rates were through the roof within that target audience. And so people are trying new things, and there are multiple channels that extend just beyond email that certainly can work. But I think from your point at the very beginning of this conversation, having a promotional schedule in place, that's like the first step.
Exactly.
You've got to think through that. From there, you can fine tune things and try new things. But sound advice from the get-go. So. The other thing I was just going to mention is that when it comes to these promotions and what you're talking about here, I'm really a testament to that with our virtual event series that we were running. And what was happening with that is we put together a plan in place, but we were seeing the bulk of the registrations coming literally days leading up to the event. And as an event manager, it was a little stressful at times to see you've got people registering, kind of trickling in at the beginning, and then all of a sudden, thankfully, the it increases dramatically towards the end.
And I think that, and as you learned, I'm sure as you did it, is that early on, this is the importance of a program and having those data points.
Right.
It's one thing for me to tell you that across 13,000 events, this is what's going to happen, and have you reinforce it to your audience here. But it's not until they run a few webinars where they start to know, it's okay.
Sure.
We get 50 to 100 on the week of.
Right.
We're going to get 20 more tomorrow. It happens every single time, right? And then you get to know that and trust it, so you can really make an impact in that final week.
Well, it's good for everyone to know that they're not alone. That seems to be the norm, right?
Exactly, yeah.